I just want to go over some basics here on our lathe, you know, what the controls are, where everything's at. That way you guys know that information first here before we get into like an actual demonstration. You know, the first thing is, you know, we have our on and off switch located over here on this side. It's just the push button there, the green and red. We've got a stop switch there, emergency stop switch on top. The other little switch is a forward reverse. Our machines will always be in forward. You know, we'll never change it to reverse. You know, another thing about the emergency stop, it functions the exact same way as what our emergency stop does on our bandsaw. Meaning once it's pushed, you have to turn it in order for it to release. Now, one thing you will have to do with this is when it's pushed, a lot of these switches are pretty loose. So usually you have to hold on to the black part underneath and then turn it to get that to release. Kind of hard for me to do with one hand, but you know, that's how that guy would release from there. You know, so if ever, you know, it won't turn on, you know, that's the first thing I would look at to see if that button is pushed down. You know, and if it is, you know, just grab a hold of it. You know, you may have to hold the black part, turn the red, and it'll pop back up. So if we were to turn this machine on, you know, we'll turn it on here. You know, you've got a variable speed dial. You've got a digital screen telling you like how many RPMs it's spinning. You know, when we turn our aluminum pieces, you know, we want to be around 600 RPMs. You know, we can be, you know, plus or minus 50 is probably fine. So, you know, 550 to 650 kind of range. You know, it is fairly fast, but aluminum cuts really easy, so we can go ahead and, you know, make our cuts at a pretty high speed. The second thing, I'm sorry, the next thing is we do have controls below. Those controls are for the carriage speed, meaning, you know, how fast this carriage travels back and forth. You know, so we can change that as well. Those should all be set already. Again, I don't really want you guys adjusting those. You know, I've got it set at the slowest speed right now. That will give us the best result. Now, onto the carriage itself. We've got a few different controls here. We have the larger wheel, you know, actually move the carriage left and right. The one kind of in the middle, that moves the tool, you know, in and out. So we can make that adjustment there with that guy. There is another little wheel here off to the side. We're not using that one for this operation for what we're doing. You know, so as far as, you know, the actual wheels that you turn, you know, we've only got two that we will actually be using, you know, on the first projects at least. So, you know, those are our main ones. They do have increments on them, meaning that if I turn down here and look at the actual dial itself, there are little readings, little lines. Each one of those little lines is representing, you know, 2/1000ths of an inch. Maybe hard to see in the video, but you know, each little line is 2/1000. So if you are, say, like you want a part that is exactly 0.75 and you've measured it with your dial caliper and it's like 0.756, well, we would turn it in 3 little marks on that dial. Should get us to that 750 that we want. Now the tool holder itself, you know, we're looking at it, you know, right here, the black handle. First of all, these are quick change tool holders. So, you know, you can, you know, push that over and that will allow you to change out the tools. You know, we do have our cutting bit in there. That cutting bit does have that little insert that I was talking about before. That is a carbide insert. You've got a little bolt there. You know, carbide is extremely brittle, so it won't take much abuse. So we need to be careful of that. On initial setup, what we're going to have to do is we have to verify that like the tool is touching is going to come in contact with the widest part of that circle. You know, I'll go over that process with you guys in the classroom. It's a lot easier to see when I draw it up on the board than actually trying to videotape it. But basically what has to happen is we have to, you know, raise the cutter or lower the cutter to get it in that widest point. You know, for that to happen, you know, we have to have this handle loosened, and then you can just simply adjust, you know, this little black thumb screw right there, and you know, and that will raise it, lower it. And again, I'll show you a little bit a better way to set that up. As far as the chuck, you know, it works exactly the same way as a drill chuck does. We've got a chuck key, you know, that goes in that guy, you know, so we just loosen it up. As you turn it, you know, all three jaws move evenly. You know, so when we put a part in, we just want to put it in there, and we just want to kind of snug it up. We don't have to, you know, really make it tight, because you can actually crush your part, which will end up and give us a part that doesn't turn true, because you've changed it from a relatively perfect circle to something that's not at that point. You know, so that's something that, you know, we need to make sure that we don't over tighten it, because that can give us problems. Now moving on to another feature here with our carriage, we have a feed lever, so it will automatically feed on its own. Let me get it turned on here so you guys can see what I'm referring to. So right now we're looking at it. You've got this larger screw down here at the bottom. It's turning now at this point. That's kind of the power to make, you know, to drive this. This little lever here, first of all, it can slide in and out. So, you know, it can go in and out here. You know, when it's in the out position, you know, and you move that handle up, it may be hard for you guys to see, but you can notice the wheel turning right now. So it's actually moving in that direction. You know, and to bring it down, you know, just bring it down to that lower middle position, you know, that turns it off. This is something, you know, it may not go in right away, but, you know, it's got a little spot where it just, you know, it'll just fall right in. Don't sit here and, you know, really try to force it up. It's not going to function that way. You'll break stuff inside, you know, it just falls right in. Now we also have another feature where we can do facing operations, where we can actually make the cross slide move in and out. To do that, we have to push that in, and then we will go down for that. And again, it should just be, you know, a real simple motion. Again, you can notice our cross slide wheel here is turning at this point, so it's moving in. You know, it moves extremely slow, so you may not, you know, to a first glance, you may not notice the movement here. But again, you know, guys, it just takes just the tiniest little bit of effort, and it didn't go, there you go. You know, so it doesn't take a whole lot to make that happen. But, you know, that's how we'll do our cuts. If you try to do your cuts manually, you know, it's going to end up and be real rough. Next up is the tailstock. If ever you're trying to turn this thing and it doesn't want to turn, you know, loosen that little clamp on the top, you know, and that will allow this thing to wheel more freely. There's only 2 inches of travel here. So once you see that number 2 on this, you know, scale right here, you need to stop, because you'll actually run this thing out. And sometimes it's a little bit challenging to get it back into the tailstock. You know, so we need to make sure we stop at 2. There is a handle on the back that we can loosen, that allows us to slide this thing and lock it at certain positions. You know, so that locks it where now it does not move. We can go ahead and change this piece as well. You know, right now it's got a live center in it, meaning this end turns. You know, if we wanted to drill a hole, for example, we'd have to, you know, get this piece pulled out and put in a drill chuck in there. To do that, you'd usually just back this thing up, go a little bit further, and it pops out, and you could just slide your drill chuck in. You know, but that's the basics here. You know, there'll be more videos. I'll probably do a demonstration with everyone, you know, in the next coming days.